And good evening, and welcome to Train Aficionado Live. I'm Jonathan Higgins, and I think you clearly know my favorite heritage unit, the Virginian. The reason why it's my favorite heritage unit, it was the first heritage unit that I was able to catch. I remember being out in Pennsylvania by the Horseshoe Curve, and I was up at Chrysandra, and I waited there for hours. I knew it was going to be coming west, and I basically said, I'm not missing this. I don't want to move positions, because a lot of times what happens when you go and change locations, it'll be like two ships passing in the night, unless you're running parallel with a railroad line along a road, being able to physically see the train. So this was a last minute topic. So I basically pulled this topic out of nowhere. And the reason for this topic, I was able to catch the Virginian. As many of you know, they recently repainted, made that locomotive look brand new, and I was able to catch it not too far away from me up in, was it? Can't think of it. New Miami, which is just north of Hamilton, Ohio. So I was able to catch it, and I was excited about about that. And I said, oh, maybe I should do a show to kind of talk about how to track them, how to catch them, tips and tricks that I could share with you guys. So let's do that tonight. Also, the next Train Aficionado show, I'm going to be traveling, so there may not be a live show. I haven't decided yet. The next show would be October the 4th, which is a Wednesday night, and I'm not sure, whether I'm going to be doing a live show or not. I will definitely let you guys know one way or the other. We'll post it on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and of course on Instagram as well, in the Instagram story if you follow me on Instagram. So I'll definitely let you guys know. Let's take a look at tonight's slide deck. So how to catch a heritage unit. And of course our website, trainaficionado.com. So if you want to look at our blog and what have you, definitely check it out. So we've got tons of videos on the channel to watch. So definitely watch the channel. We've got a whole variety of things that we covered. We have videos from rail fanning locations throughout Ohio. We got some more videos that are sitting in the hopper. We just need to post. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the social media as well: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Train Aficionado. If you haven't done that as of yet, make sure to subscribe right now. You're watching this, so definitely do that. You can also support the show by shopping our store at trainaficionado.com. We've got t-shirts, hats, and hoodies, and some windbreakers, and all types of stuff you can be able to check out there. Also at Train Aficionado, we've got some really great rail fanning guides, trackside guides. We have one for Altoona. I'm working on one for here around Cincinnati. There is one that I was working on, and I need to continue working on it throughout Charlotte. So a lot of good stuff. And of course the blog. You can read a lot of my blog entries on there as well. So how to catch a heritage unit. So let's take a look at it. And here is the photo that I was able to take of the Virginian. I was there for probably almost 2 hours waiting for it, standing there waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally it rolled through, and it looks beautiful. It looks like literally it rolled right out of the paint shop. I found this spot where it would have a long distance to be able to get it and be able to get a side photo of it. And I was able to get several shots. This is one of my favorites. The lighting was absolutely perfect. The sky, of course, there is beautiful. You've got not only blue skies there, but you got some clouds. And I got it dead center, perfect. You could see the Virginian on the side. I was completely thrilled. So I ended up chasing it, and I kept going and going and going and going, and It ran parallel with this road that was there, and it was heading towards Chicago. So it was heading towards Indianapolis, and it was on the was it? I can't think of the line that it was on. But anyway, it was heading west. So I knew that that road would run parallel, 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 and then I ended up getting some slow pokes in front of me. So eventually I got up to it and I got ahead of it, and then I got into a town that had so many darn lights. So of course, knowing my luck, I get every red light. So I got to a point, and I was almost into Indiana when I was chasing it. So I ended up catching it at a railroad crossing. Of course, I couldn't get out and take a photo. I was too far back, and then it ended up running. It wasn't parallel anymore to the road that I was running on. It ended up going a different direction, and I had no clue. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna cut my losses. Bad enough I didn't have a full tank of gas. So that's the thing. If you're gonna go out rail fanning, and you know you're gonna chase something, fill your gas tank. You're definitely gonna need it. I think I was at like 74 miles until empty. I mean, I still had a little bit of get up and go. I could have kept going, but at that point, and of course I was by myself doing it, so it's no fun doing that. Usually when I'm able to do it with somebody else is driving, so they're able to kind of drop me off. They can figure out where to put the car, and then I could take photos, kind of like a, run and gun type of thing. So anyway, I was able to get the shots I was able to get at the one location, and then everything else was a bust. I ended up driving, miles and miles for no reason. Anyway, let's get back to the slide deck. So tonight there's so many heritage units for various railroads. I mean, Norfolk Southern probably has done it the best. Many people would say they have all of these locomotives. What is a heritage unit? Essentially is, thank you so much, Les, for mentioning my shirt. This is a shirt that I got from a company that's no longer I don't think they're in business anymore. But I ended up getting this, and this was a design he put together for the Virginian, which holds dear to my heart because it was one of my first. So these heritage units are basically paying tribute to the railroad lines that Norfolk Southern runs on today. So, they run on the old New York Central lines, the Virginian, the Wabash, the Jersey Central, the Illinois Terminal, Penn Central, Conrail, the Southern, the Nickel Plate, the Pennsylvania, the Norfolk Western. You can see all the numbers and roads there. So basically the numbers are the locomotive numbers. So what we're looking at, the photograph of 8105 is the interstate, which is otherwise known as the creamsicle. So this one I actually caught in Hamilton, Ohio. And this was a super cool thing. It was actually waiting on a signal. So I knew it went through, and people were reporting it, and then they stopped reporting it. So I'm like, all right, let's take a ride to see if we can catch it. So sure enough, driving, in northern Hamilton, and it was sitting there. I said, no way, it's sitting there. So this is actually a photograph of it getting the green signal and moving. It was a little further down in the tracks, and I got 9 million photos of it sitting there. As many as I could wide, close-ups and what have you. I kind of waited until it was moving, and I got this photo as well. So this was a cool thing to be able to get it. And this was one of my first heritage units here in Ohio. I was getting them fairly often when I was in North Carolina. And then in many of the trips that I went to the Horseshoe Curve, I was getting them a lot. They run through that line fairly often, running from basically New York to Chicago through that main corridor there. But these are some of the numbers of the units. And it's definitely good to be familiarized with that. So sometimes on the Facebook groups, you will see some of them referring to, 888, like whatever number is coming through, 1070 is, coming through, and they're like 1070. And of course, some of these people figure you're familiar with every numbers of them. I mean, the ones that I have remembered is the 1069 because it's the Virginian. I remember that one because, that was my first heritage unit. And then, of course, the one that basically was the biggest pest to get, and I haven't got all of them. I got a vast majority of them from Norfolk Southern is the Pennsylvania. I was in Pennsylvania. I wanted to get it in Pennsylvania, and every single time, would go through, in the middle of the night when I was there, or I just miss it by an hour, or I didn't get up early enough, or maybe I was, traveling from one spot to another, went to lunch. I mean, this was my kryptonite, for the heritage units. I finally did get the Pennsylvanian, and I tracked it. It was way the heck up in probably up in Ohio or wherever. It was coming down towards North Carolina, and I tracked it and tracked it and tracked it and tracked it to the point where I was actually able to get it, and I waited and waited for it, and I finally got it. I actually thought I got skunked. I figured I missed it, but sure enough, I got it, and it was leading at the time, and then it had to back down this line to Duke Energy in Mooresville, North Carolina. So that locomotive was then leading, was now trailing, because there's no Y there to be able to run it down that line. So they actually have on this coal train, it was a coal train, they have locomotives on either end. So the crew basically gets to a point where they run down this Duke Energy line, and that's strictly just what the track is for, pretty much, is running trains down there to get the Pennsylvania. So of course it was trailing, but I still got wonderful shots of it. And then I ended up getting it again, eventually another time, but that Pennsylvania one was a challenge. A little bit of backstory. I'm going to do a show with all heritage unit photos that I've done and kind of tell you about each location that I photographed them in. So we can kind of look at some of my photography in an upcoming show. So Norfolk Southern has finally gotten into the business of heritage units. Some people love it, some people hate it. It all depends on your thing. I mean, basically what they've done, and a lot of people say, oh, they didn't finish painting it. So what CSX has done is they basically made the rear end of the locomotive the heritage painted scheme. And then on the front, it becomes CSX. So they kind of done their own spin to it, kind of fades into, the heritage unit part and then fades into CSX. This is the future, this is where we came from type of thing. So currently, right now, they've got Baltimore, Ohio, the L&N, Chesapeake and Ohio, the Chessie system, Conrail, and the Seaboard. They plan on releasing more heritage units. So they're going to do a lot more of those coming out. And the paint schemes, I think they're pretty decent. I haven't caught a single one as of yet. That's why I don't have a photograph of them. I have the CSX logo. So I'm hoping to catch some of those, hopefully in the near future. I got to spend some time rail fanning. I'm hoping to go, I'm not too sure if any of you from the local area, I may be going to Fostoria on Saturday. They're having their big event down there, up there, I should say. I'm down here, but up there for, they have a train show. They have, a whole bunch of people will be rail fanning at the park there. So I'm planning on hopefully going there on Saturday. It'd be great if I did the road trip with somebody with me, but we'll see what happens. But I'm really looking forward to going there for the day. But yeah, here's some of their heritage units, that they currently have. They're going to be rolling out a lot more. There's other railroad lines of which have heritage units, which I'm not covering tonight, but I wanted to give you a little bit of taste of what some of these railroads are doing. So the best way to track a heritage unit is the Heritage Unit app, which is free, and you can download it in the App Store, whether you have an Android or an iPhone. You go to the appropriate app store and download the app. And it's great for many things. Not only trying to catch heritage units, but trying to learn some of the symbols of the trains and the routes. And also learning what other special heritage units, paint schemes, or some novelty trains, such as, the various ones that are out there that have claimed to fame, for various reasons. the triple 11, the triple one, quadruple one. The barcode unit, which is the Norfolk Southern 1111. It's got four ones. Sorry, misspoke there. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen with a phone. I actually have it connected up, and we can do a live navigation of the app. This is the first time me doing this, so I've got a cell phone here which I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna share my screen, and we can kind of take a look at that right now. Let me just see here. Actually, we'll do this so you can actually see me on the screen, and we'll move the phone over here. So here's the Heritage Unit app right here. So this is the page. I actually have an account with them, so I can report locomotives. So you're able to see, last report. You're able to see locomotives that are trending. You're also able to see, because I have location services on this phone, we're able to see the radius of how close a locomotive is to me. So currently there are about 3 locomotives within a 150-mile radius. So I can click on here, and it's going to show me the last report. And of course, the one day ago is probably long gone, unless it's parked at a yard or something. The others, let me just move that off there so you don't have it. The other one here, we got the BNSF one 6 hours ago, and then basically the AC/DC conversion locomotive was about 3 hours ago. So the other cool thing with this is we're able to see this information on a map as well. So we're able to kind of crunch in and be able to look at this all on a map, and it'll plot where they are. So let's go to Ohio and see what's doing here. So we'll click on this little icon and be able to see. So we got the high hood that came through a day ago. So, and it also shows who's reporting it, what was going on, whether it's leading, what locomotive's leading, and where it's going. So the coolest thing, if this was reported 20 minutes ago at Cincinnati, Ohio, and I can see it's heading in a southerly direction, what route is it going? I can actually click on this. In some of the routes, it's actually mapped, where you're able to see the starting point and the end point. With this one here, this route's not entirely mapped as of yet. They're working on it with various ones. It'll actually show on the map the railroad route it's going. But at least this will show you the starting destination and the ending destination. It'll also show how often does it go. It's daily. And then it'll add some notes in there that it works in certain yards. In this case, the Guest Street yard in Cincinnati. And then it's also going to be probably stopping at the Danville yard in Kentucky. So it'll stop there, pick up some cars, get rid of some cars, and then continue on its journey. So this is, and then it also shows the symbol, which is what it's going to be known as with radio communication. It's going to be, let's say if I was calling signals, milepost 15, NS 123, heading south, track 1. You'll hear that when they're calling out signals over the scanner. So it's good to know the symbol, because they're not going to identify typically the locomotive by its actual number. On the radio, it is going to be known by its symbol. So you can see that on the screen here, which is really nice. Now, if you're not familiar with the symbols, oops, let me just see here. Let me come out of this. Close. We can go over to this for more, and we can look at the symbols here. So I can go here, and let's say for that symbol, I heard, NS 123, like we were just looking at. So I can actually go into the app, click in here, and I have no clue what direction or where it's starting point or end point. And I can go into here and put 1, 2, 3. And then what I'll do is I can scroll down, and I know I was monitoring Norfolk Southern, so then I can see NS 123. So I can pull this up here. I can see the same data that when I clicked on there on the link. So if I'm not familiar with it, I can look at it. You can see that CSX has several trains that have 1, 2, 3, and it's designated by an E or a G, depending on what type of cargo it has. Um, there was a train that I used to rail fan often in North Carolina. It was 135. Let's see what that looks like. 135. I'll look for it here. Norfolk Southern, 135. So here it is here. So originally, when I was living out there, it started out of the yard that was just north of Charlotte, and then they ended up changing it so it came out of Asheville and headed to Knoxville. So it's a Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday train, and you can see here it basically heads in a westerly direction because it starts in Asheville and ends in Knoxville. And it's a general manifest train, so you can see that there. So the great thing about the app is if you're listening on the scanner and you hear a train symbol and you're like, where is it heading to? What has it got for goods? You can actually look it up through the app, which is really nice. Subdivisions, you can see that here. This is a new part of the app, which you can see here. So you can kind of search out the various subdivisions. So I can let's take a look at Norfolk Southern. So we'll scroll in and take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this app. It is free. I would highly recommend it. So then let's do Norfolk Southern. Click done. And then we can see all the various divisions that they're currently working on. So let's take a look, see if I can find one that's around here. I'm not seeing one, but let's take a look at the Salisbury to Greenville division. So it's going to load a map, and it's actually going to show you, mileposts and such. So we can go right into here. Look at all this. I mean, literally, I can click on a map, and I know exactly where the milepost is. So this is really cool. So if I hear a train and I'm not familiar where I'm at, and I know where I'm at on the map, I can actually click on the line and just click there and find out exactly where that milepost is. So this is really nice to be able to do that, and they're constantly updating this app and they're working on it. So you can see that there. So of course you can search by railroad as well. You can also look by locomotive. So for instance, let's say if I'm curious about where right now the Virginian is, and I know that the locomotive number is 1069. Oops. There it comes up right there. I can click on this. It's going to load up the latest reports. So I know 10 hours ago, that was the last report that it was in New Jersey, Union, New Jersey. And it's currently on the train symbol NS24X. So we're able to see, where it is, what's going on. It's currently leading. It's been leading a lot lately, as you can see here. You probably can see if I scroll far enough back when it was in Ohio here. You can see a ton of reports. There's a lot of people out there tracking this because, of course, the locomotive finally got a brand new paint job, which definitely was needed. Looks brand new. But you're able to do a lot with this. You're able to see what's going on. You can look at maps, you can look at locomotive, you can look at photos. Here's some photos of it as well, of people that contributed. So I want to show you something else. So the reason why this app is great is it's fellow rail fans that are using this app to report where the train's at. So typically I try to report as much as possible. When I'm out there and a heritage unit passes me, I report it so the next person down the line can get it. So it's kind of, doing a service to your fellow rail fans. So take, for instance, let's say this, I was within the area of this locomotive and I wanted to be able to report it. So let's say this is, and I'll just do it in the app, 4005. So I'm just going to hit close, and I'll show you to report it. I click on report. Oops. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm using an older iPhone, so probably not going to allow me to do it. But basically what ends up happening is I'll get a report screen where I'll enter in 4005, and then if it's been a fairly recent report, it'll automatically fill in all the fields. So with my location services on, it's going to be able to plot that I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. So it's going to know right away that, you know, where I'm at. So it's going to plot that in there, and then I can put any notes or make any changes. Let's say they picked up another unit and it's lead in a different unit's leading. I can change that, update it. So pretty much you're able to report in here. You just have to, one, have your, sign up for it, put your email address in, and make sure you're reporting things accurately. You don't want to be putting in bad reports because people will report you. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is an old iPhone. I have an iPhone 6 that's trying to connect up to this because I figured, this would be good to be able to do for presentation, but I didn't realize that the app is probably a little bit old. So you can see there's my buddy Watson right on the screen there, his beautiful face on there. But yeah, this is the Heritage Unit app, works really well. Wanted to spend a little bit of time on it. Definitely download it. And it's certainly a great thing to be able to do there. Let's go back to the slide deck. I'm going to cover a couple of different other apps. It's a great thing to be able to use, whether you want to look up a symbol of a train or see a route of a division. It's quite handy. So not only for reporting and tracking, but even in day-to-day, if you hear a train symbol and you want to know where does it originate from, where does it end up, it's great to look that up as well. So let's go back to the slide deck. I'll just get that up now. Let's see here. And we'll go back to the slide deck and take a look at it. So Heritage Unit app, really great. Highly recommend it. Another website that I use quite often, and I love this website, it's called openrailwaymap.org. They also have an app. They do charge like $1.99 for it, or I forget how much it is, but it is a paid app. It's well worth it. You have the ability to see not only the active lines, some of the abandoned lines, some of the transit systems, like Charlotte's got a light rail system, so you're able to see that as well. You can see in this photograph of Charlotte, we're able to see both the yards there, the Queen's Gate, and the other yard that's in Cincinnati. You can also see that broken line, that brown broken line. That means that it's an abandoned railroad line there. If you zoom into the map, you'll be able to see who operates on it, whether it's Norfolk Southern or CSX, and it'll say the division or the district name. So you'll be able to see that too as well. And of course, you can see not only here in the United States, but railroad lines throughout the world on there. So it's a really great website. So if you want to go to the website, that is entirely free. That's openrailwaymaps.org. And they also have an app as well, so you can download that on your smartphone. So great stuff there. So let's continue taking a look at what we have on the deck tonight. Now, these are becoming less and less available. I believe, most of the timetables are available electronically now versus as a book. They used to hand out to all the employees. There are several websites that actually have PDFs of these timetables, which are provided to the employees, and it kind of tells them, what is along the route, whether it's double track, single line. It'll state, the station or the name of the area. As you can see here, this is going from Cincinnati downtown all the way up to Butler Street in Hamilton. It'll show, sidings. It'll show other routes. It'll show a lot on here. It shows mileposts, speed limits, some of which is not current anymore depending on the book that you have. But there's a lot of information here. What typically I use this for is to get familiarized for the line that I'm rail fanning. I can see the the mileposts, the junctions, the sidings, stations, and landmarks. So I'm able to download this. Sometimes I'll print them off. I'm at the point where I'm such a dork, and you could probably make fun of me about it, is I have a laminator, and I have laminated certain lines to be able to, when I go rail fanning, I can pull that out. If it's raining a little bit, I'm not damaging the paper. I print off. Usually I'll do it front and back, and then I'll have a certain section of a line that I'm rail fanning, and I can see all the mileposts where the detectors are and everything. So this is really handy. Most of this is available as a PDF online. You can see things as timetables dating back to the 80s, to the early to mid 2000s. Well, excuse me, probably the early 2000s, not the mid 2000s. Sorry, we're not that far into the future. But anyway, this is something that I use all the time when rail fanning. So the thing is, when you're trying to do when you're trying to track a heritage unit, you want to get familiarized with the line that you're rail fanning. You want to know where the mileposts are. You want to know where the good spots to be able to take photos. You want to be on the light, the best lighted side of the tracks. Of course, you don't want to be on the shaded side because, of course, the locomotive is going to be shaded. You want to make sure that the locomotive, especially if you're getting a side profile, you want to make sure there's enough light coming onto that locomotive. And the trick that I use is I look at the buildings around me. I look at what side of the building is shaded when taking the photographs. So I know, okay, so if I'm on this side of the tracks, it's going to be, I'm on the shady side, so the locomotive is going to be shaded. Versus, on the other side, maybe the sun is behind me, so it's going to light up the locomotive, and it's going to be an excellent shot. So you kind of want to look at that, and of course, there's certain mileposts or certain areas where you can either get on one side of the track or the other where it's safe for you to do so. Where you're in public space to be able to do it. So when I was out last Sunday trying to get the Virginian, I was thinking, all right, so it's heading north. I've got a couple of spots where I can get it. And I ended up thinking about this place in New Miami where I've gotten trains before. And I said, all right, I've got it on a curve so I can kind of get a little bit of photographs as it's approaching me, and I can get a really nice side shot. So I ended up picking that spot, and sure enough, I waited it out, and I was able to get the shot. Another app, which is really neat, that I have, and I'm not going to do a demonstration of it tonight, is the Railroad Crossing Locator. So this is something that is used, to be able to see where each run of the railroad crossings are, and you can actually get some pretty good information on there. You can get an indication of what railroad line is running on there, who owns it, the street name, the milepost, whether it's a quiet zone or not. You can even get collision reports. So this is a great thing to be able to see if there's been any accidents with at this crossing involving a train. Even it'll give you an indication of what trains run through there, other than, CSX. Like it states in here, Amtrak runs on it on the second slide there. It shows that it's Butler County, Hamilton. It also shows what railroad district it's in. It's the Indianapolis subdivision or district. It'll state, approximately how many trains run on this line. Give or take, I mean, it's not entirely accurate, but it'll give you a general sense of roughly, whether it's two to three trains a day, or it's more than that. I mean, granted, use your own judgment, but this is a great app to be able to do that. Yet again, another free app that you can take advantage of, and this is the Railroad Crossing Locator, and it'll look like, I believe they haven't changed the icon for the app, and it still looks like that. So have a scanner. Having a scanner is a big asset. So I was monitoring my scanner and waiting for the Virginian, and I knew the train symbol because I was on the Heritage Unit app. And then I ended up hearing the crew calling the signal. So I got the heads up before it got to me. It was in Hamilton, downtown Hamilton, and I heard the crew communicate, passing blah, 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 whatever the train symbol is over the radio. So I knew, okay, it's coming. So I was ready for it to be coming at me. Of course, I was standing there for a while. I got some some trains going through in the other direction, and maybe I think I got like 3 trains when I was out there. And then of course I finally got the NS Virginian. So the things that you can hear on a scanner, of course, are of course defect detectors. The Fred, if you're monitoring that, what was the biggest help for me for catching the heritage unit is the engine callouts. You're able to hear the work crews and the train crews, the dispatcher and the train, which are all key. If you're able to hear at least the dispatcher, you may hear that they're stopped at a signal. Maybe they're going to tie down somewhere. Just being able to hear that communication. Maybe you go out to where, if you're able to take a photograph of where they're tied down at, you're able to get some whole bunch of photos if you're able to do it safely from a public spot. And of course, if you're lucky enough to live by a yard, putting on those yard and switch operation channels are definitely key. So definitely doing all that. So a scanner is definitely a great thing to have. I plan on doing some scanner classes in October. I'm just trying to figure out, what nights I'm able to do it. I'm actually thinking about doing it so it's actually in person and virtual. So for those of you that haven't been to my scanner class at the Cincinnati Railroad Club, we are going to probably open it up, so space will be limited. I haven't caught any other heritage units outside of Amtrak, Norfolk Southern, and as of right now, the new CSX ones. I haven't caught those, but I've caught some Norfolk Southerns and Amtrak, and I've of course caught some of the sticker ones that CSX has had. But I hope to travel a lot more and maybe get some of the UP ones and all the other ones that are out there as well. Radio reference, when it comes to scanners, is definitely the great place to look up frequencies. So go to radioreference.com, check out the state page, and then you can browse the railroad frequencies on the state page. They'll be broken out by type of railroad and then broken out by district or division, as you can see here on there. So radioreference.com is great for being able to find those frequencies. Broadcastify is definitely handy here as well for monitoring some locations that are not near you. Of course, you can pull it up on the computer at broadcastify.com. What we have on the screen here is the Cincinnati Railroad Club scanner feed, which is the CSX Norfolk Southern Tower A radio right inside of Cincinnati Union Terminal. So you're able to hear all the activity in the Queensgate Yard, all the frequencies listed there for the Guest Street Yard, which is Norfolk Southern. And then you're also able to hear the railroads that are approaching the 2 yards, such as the Cincinnati Terminal, the Indiana Sub, and of course the Rat Hole, the CNO and TP line. So all those frequencies are in there. Typically, when somebody sets up the feed, a good thing to do is to list the frequencies that the scanner is monitoring at this location. So this is actually a feed that I set up for the Cincinnati Railroad Club, which you can check out, and it's right there at the Cincinnati Union Terminal. We actually have a club room inside the building, and that's where it originates from. And you can hear a lot of the activity over the radio. It's quite interesting hearing some of the yard communication versus some of the road and dispatch stuff. So you can definitely get some interesting listening there. And there are hundreds of feeds for railroads across the country. And of course, you can listen to them free on Broadcastify. With that being said, the best scanner app that's out there is the one where all the feeds originate from. It's Broadcastify Police Scanner. So this is an app where you can pull up police, fire, EMS, and all the other stuff. But particularly for me, I'm using this for the railroads. As you can see here, Broadcastify, it's sorted by feed type or location. As you can see, I have a county in Massachusetts, and it shows the Palmer Railroad Radio. I'm not too sure if that feed's still up, but that is a feed that you can monitor for the railroads there. So you peruse the website first, figure out what county the feed is in and then look it up through the app and then listen to it through the phone. Keep in mind when you're doing listening on the app, it's going to pick up whatever is closest to that scanner that's monitoring it. So because you're hearing things on there doesn't mean it's close to you. So if I was using this app to listen, to stuff that was going on, and I'm way up in Hamilton, Ohio, it's best that I have a scanner that I'm monitoring locally. I'm able to hear everything that's happening locally to me. You got to remember, railroad communication is line of sight. So with this case, if I'm monitoring this feed, I'm only going to hear activity that's in or around Cincinnati Union Terminal. I'm not going to be able to hear things that are far away. Maybe I might hear the dispatcher some, but it's not going to be any of the local communication if I was way up in Hamilton or anywhere else. So it's best that you have a scanner. These feeds don't really replace the ability of having a scanner. Maybe you're monitoring it because you know that the heritage unit's stopping in the yard, and maybe if you listen carefully enough, you'll hear it when it's heading out of the yard, and then you have a heads up there, and then you monitor your scanner to be able to hear further heads ups as it heads closer to you. That was a big show. There was a lot of stuff to cover there. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more how to catch a heritage unit. I can't say enough. The biggest thing is knowing where you're at and where you're rail fanning. Like on Sunday when I was chasing the Virginian, if I didn't have some slow pokes in front of me and I didn't hit all those traffic lights, I would have been able to get that probably in another spot. Just knowing that road that I was traveling on runs parallel to the railroad line, so eventually I caught up to it, and then I got beyond it, and then I got stuck at lights, and then I ended up missing. I said, all right, I drove literally probably I'm not too sure how long. It didn't feel like much because I was just pursuing it. Make sure when you're chasing, abide by the speed limit. Be careful. Don't do anything stupid. A lot of times, like if it's a route that you're able to do some chasing, and the railroad's road speed is a lot less than the road that you're traveling on in a vehicle. A lot of times you're going to catch up to the train. You're going to be able to catch up to it, and that's what I ended up doing. I thought, I thought I wasn't ever going to catch it. I did see it at the go through the railroad crossing, but I was so far back. And then at this point, it was crossing the road that it was kind of running parallel, and it was heading into a different direction, and I wasn't familiar with it, and I wasn't going to drive all the way to Indiana. I was almost there, but yeah. So definitely knowledge of that, knowing the line where you can take photos. So if you're going to do something where it's a planned chase, figure out spots where you can stop for photos, and keep in mind, various times a day, maybe on this side of the track would be best in the mornings to take photos. In the afternoon, the other side may be the best. Depending on if that sun is behind you, you can get some really good light. If the sun is in front of you and you're on this side of the tracks, you're more than likely going to get the photo, but it's going to be dark. So it's best to be on the side of the tracks where the sun is somewhat behind you. So definitely keep that in mind for photography. Same thing for video. You want to be able to make sure you get decent light with it as well. But certainly, have a couple of plans of action when you're doing that. And then if you're able to, and you're not rail fanning solo, it is great to do this with somebody else. A lot of times, you may have a significant other that's okay with going rail fanning with you, and if that's the case and they're not photographing it, have them be the driver. And maybe, if as you go out rail fanning with them, they'll get familiar with the area. So if you end up chasing the train, they can say, hey, I know that rail fanning spot that you want to always take a photograph, but there's no place to park. Let's try to get ahead of the train. I'll drop you off, and then I'll either park somewhere or find some place where I can turn off and then come and pick you up. Of course, the great thing of this day and age, everybody's got cell phones. So yeah, you can call me, when you got the train, I'll come back and pick you up, or text me or whatever. if you're pulled off. But it's always great to rail fan with a group as well. Certainly, like if you're waiting a long time for a heritage unit to come through and you're stationed at a spot, nothing's better than having company. To be able to talk and kind of enjoy some conversation and set up shop like I did for the first for this heritage unit here, the Virginian. But I appreciate every one of you watching tonight. A lot of great comments. A lot of people talking about some of the some of the various things that the locomotives that they like and so on and so forth. Good evening to Lincoln and Les and Let's Go Rail Fan in Union Pacific 1943. All you guys out there and all the rest of you that I'm not seeing right now on my screen. I thank you so much for watching the show. I greatly appreciate every one of you watching. But yeah, let's do a couple of slides. If you have any additional questions, certainly post them in the comments. I'll try to answer them. I'll cover a few slides before we wrap it up for this evening. So let's take a look at the slide deck here. We got a great show, tonight, and of course, we have rail fanning for beginners. So if you're brand new to the hobby, make sure you check out Rail Fanning for Beginners. It's a great video that I posted on the YouTube channel and all the other videos. Hopefully I may have something for a show when I'm traveling the first week of October. That'll be the 4th. We'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Train Aficionado. Make sure you check out the website, trainaficionado.com. And definitely use some of the things that I mentioned, for tools. As always, the great thing about our show, it's brought to you by viewers like you. So, of course, we use streaming software each and every week for Train Aficionado and the Scanner guys. It does cost money. I think the streaming service I'm using is like $400. I ended up doing this Black Friday special. So with you guys buying hats and t-shirts and such helps me to pay for the streaming service that I'm using to make this broadcast happen each and every week, putting out a professional broadcast level at 4K. So definitely anything that you purchase from the website, hats or t-shirts or hoodies or anything, I'm basically taking that so I'm able to provide a great show for you guys using the streaming service that I'm using, upgrading microphones, and even buying some stuff so we can do, like we did this summer, some live remotes trackside. So certainly we greatly appreciate it, and that's where some of the money goes to be able to do that. Tonight's show, how to catch a heritage unit. So hopefully tonight you guys have learned some different things to be able to keep in mind, some apps to take advantage of, definitely some websites. Dale mentions he hears a lot of trains out where he's at. I think right now where he's in Montana, he can't see which rail line it is. But the great thing is, try using some of the websites that I mentioned, especially that one that shows the railroad lines, the Open Railway Maps website that I showed, because a lot of times you'll be able to see those lines and divisions and be able to figure out where they run through. So a lot of great stuff there. But I thank you so much tonight to everyone that's joined the show. I can't say enough about you guys. Appreciate you guys watching each and every week. If you're watching this, after the show, after it airs, we appreciate you guys as well. Thanks again for watching. We hope that you enjoy the weather as it's still good, and get out there and do some rail fanning. If any of you are heading out to Fonstoria, excuse me, and if I end up heading out there, definitely say hello if you see me. Definitely looking forward to being out there. But everyone, have a great night and stay safe out there. Happy rail fanning. We'll catch you again on the next Train Aficionado show. So have a good night, everybody.